The message that you conveyed about the universal human rights is extremely important. It is also important, however, what you said about the struggle that is still ahead in some of the locations, in some of the countries where they have grave internal conflicts, like Libya, where the changes are at the cost of bloodshed and lots of human victims. In other countries where Syria, for example, where the opposition again is struggling, instead of seeing reforms, the citizens are seeing tanks on the street. In other countries like Yemen, where the relationships between the government and the opposition requires not only dialogue but also a clear guarantee for the changes that can be implemented, and this guarantee turned out to be the young students who have gone out the streets of Sana'a. In the same way, back in '96, we had the Bulgarian university students going out in the street asking for guarantees from the government and the opposition that the transition will carry on and it will be ended successfully. In order to finalize the opening statements, it is my pleasure to now ask the presidency of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. This organization is one of the perhaps key organizations on our continent, which guarantees that whenever a conflict arises, whenever there are problems and challenges related to the political issues, you have someone to talk to, you have someone who ensures a dialogue and a proper location where the dialogue can be conducted. Many years ago in Helsinki, we had the first cracks of the Berlin Wall, and this crack was expressed in the act which established the later Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. This act mentioned that security has a human dimension. The rights that every European citizen enjoys have to be equal both to the citizens on the West and the citizens on the East. And the people on the West believed that this is a genuine message. So now it's my pleasure to address an independent party, and thanks to which the transition in the 90s were really successful, and I give the floor to the current president of the OSCE. You have the floor.
President Zhelev, Minister of Foreign Affairs in Bulgaria, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, ministers, ambassadors, representatives of foundations, NGOs, media, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the government of Lithuania, which I represent, and on behalf of the chairman in office of the OSCE, I also join in thanking the Bulgarian foreign minister for organizing this conference. The recent and still ongoing changes in North Africa and the Middle East have been closely followed by the entire OSCE community. Many observers have compared these changes to the quest that more than 20 years ago prompted democratic, economic, and security revolutions in Eastern Europe. Certainly there are similarities in the goals and aspirations of the popular movements in the Arab world on the one side, and those in Eastern and Central Europe on the other side. But there are, however, certain differences, significant differences as well. These differences serve to remind us that in seeking to apply past experiences to the present circumstances, we must act with a lot of care and sensitivity. 20 years ago, it was a tectonic change that led the heads of state and government of the then Conference of Security and Cooperation in Europe in 1990 to declare, I quote, "a new era of democracy, peace, and unity." It was stated in the historic Charter of Paris for a New Europe. It was then that participating states began to build the complex process of consolidating and strengthening democracy as the only system, the only political system of government of our nations. The principles set in Paris were reiterated and strengthened last December at the OSCE summit in Astana in Kazakhstan, when all the OSCE participating states recommended and recommitted to the goal of achieving a common security community based on shared democratic values and rule of law. Our experience demonstrates, however, that progress towards these goals is anything but a simple process. We in the OSCE understand that true security in our society involves the close interlocking of three comprehensive dimensions. The security proper, including police, borders, criminal matters. Second, economic opportunity. And third, last but not least, respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. Our organization has developed a sensitive set of practical methods and techniques to carry out reforms. We work by consensus through the Secretariat in Vienna with a network of so-called field officers requested by some participant states. These coordinate assistance, guidance, training down to the grassroots levels. We also have 3 specialized institutions to work with all participating states, especially in developing human rights institutions, supporting rights and freedoms of minorities, particularly promoting freedom of the media. On that specific note, I should say that the Lithuanian OSCE chair will sponsor a conference on the safety of journalists, and I know that there are many media representatives among you today. The conference will be on the freedom of the media and will be held in Vilnius, Lithuania on 6-7 June. I would hope that many of you here present, the journalists especially, and who can do so, will come to Vilnius to attend the conference, and you're all invited to do so. So the OSCE expertise and experience has become widely recognized not only in the media freedom, but also in legal and constitutional reforms. Its electoral assistance has been seen as a sort of gold standard in the international community. Ladies and gentlemen, sharing OSCE principles and encouraging partners to voluntarily implement them has been a raison d'être of the OSCE Partnership for Cooperation. The ongoing changes in North Africa and the Middle East present us with a unique opportunity to translate the spirit of OSCE partnership into practice. Lately, the OSCE Chairman in Office, Foreign Minister Zhubalis, visited Tunisia, explored possible areas of future cooperation. Those areas include elections, political party training, and media development. The Chairman also invited the Tunisian Foreign Minister to address the OSCE Permanent Council in Vienna to strengthen Tunisia's role as an OSCE partner for cooperation. And I know that among you present, there is also a huge Egyptian delegation, and we are looking forward to work on this in Egypt as well. I must say that Minister Zhubalis and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon have on several occasions discussed the need to foster cooperation and a sort of division of labor between international stakeholders to avoid duplication and maximize scarce resources. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to provide you with ready-tailored answers. Representing the OSCE, however, I'm here to stress that our organization is prepared to respond to requests for support, if you ask, and to share our experiences and offer appropriate training as you seek it, and if you seek it. Those of us from Eastern and Central Europe have an advantage of 20 years to look back on what we have accomplished, where our ideas worked, where mistakes were made, And we do hope that this experience might be of interest to you. On the one hand, we can be proud of how much we have achieved. At the same time, we need to remind ourselves that our individual states have changed and developed at different speeds and to different degrees. Within this OSCE era, we also reflect different cultural, historical traditions, just as do the states of North Africa and Middle East. Despite differences in history and cultural traditions, we do share high ideals and goals. Let us hope that with the countries in North Africa and Middle East, these countries will emerge from these challenging periods as stronger, free, and modern democracies, worthy of the many thousands of engaged citizens who took to the streets and risked their lives to demand a better future for themselves and to their children. Thank you so much.